Hello and welcome to Trader Talk. I'm your host, Dan Worth, and today I'm joined by Neville Burdock. How are things, Neville?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Dan.
Excellent stuff. So you join us at a very exciting time. Obviously, the international break is over now, and we're straight into the Premier League with two massive derbies to kick us back off. We'll start off in North London. Obviously, Arsenal and Spurs have both hit the ground running so far and see themselves inside the top three. Quite unfamiliar territory for Arsenal as they sit at the summit. Who are you expecting to take the 3 points here?
Yeah, as you mentioned, North London derby, huge top of the table clash. Both teams in decent form, with Arsenal comfortably beating Brentford 3-0 last time, and obviously Spurs had the 6-2 demolition of Leicester, with Son scoring that great hat-trick. I think, generally speaking, this is always a really entertaining and feisty affair. Although, I noted that there hasn't been a 0-0 draw between these two, since 2009. So, it should be a sort of an entertaining game. I think if you look back, this game's usually full of memorable incidents. So, you had the Eric Lamela Rabona goal recently where he got sent off in the same game. You go back further to like the David Bentley won the goal from the halfway line in the Danny Rose volley on his debut. Potentially lots to look forward to. In terms of who I see taking the 3 points, then I think given the seemingly huge home advantage in this fixture, I'll be looking to side with Arsenal. I was looking back, I think there's only been one away win in the last 10 years of this fixture. So a big home advantage, but probably what you would expect in with most local derbies. So be looking to side with Arsenal here.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. You alluded to it there. It looks like it's got entertainment written all over it, although I am worried you've now jinxed it with the 0-0 stat. I struggle to disagree with you, but I do think that Spurs' attacking force is probably stronger than Arsenal's, and I think that's probably what it comes down to. But I think you're right. It's impossible to sort of write off the impact of the home advantage. So probably would be taking Arsenal. We mentioned it very briefly there, but neither of these sides have been shy of a goal or two so far this season. I think Spurs are the second highest scorer so far with 18, and Arsenal only one behind on 17. What are the kind of betting markets saying around the goals markets, like specifically the spread betting market? I think when I last looked, it was around predicting 3 goals. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So game in for around 3 goals. I mean, it's not hard to see there being goals in this fixture. I think it's fair to say that Spurs' defence has looked a bit suspect this year. In their backline seems to change every week. I mean, I'm not even sure Conte knows what his sort of best defence is yet. We know Arsenal can score goals. I think they've scored in every game this season, and they usually score twice. So I think goals are likely, and probably Arsenal goals at that. I think the team news is also going to be really interesting for this game, because you've got a mixture of players returning back from international duty, plus the usual mix of sort of injured players. So for Spurs, I know they've got doubts over Lloris in goal, in Davies and Sanchez and Romero. Again, all defensive players, which I don't think is good news for Spurs. You've also potentially got Son returning back to the lineup after being dropped in the previous game, which would mean, I would imagine it would mean Conte has to either drop Kulusevski or Richarlison to make way for him, which is not an easy choice, because both on form, those players, Richarlison, I think he scored 3 times for Brazil in the international break. So some interesting things to look out for there. And I think Arsenal team is pretty sort of standard. I think they've got doubts over Zinchenko, Partey and Tierney, but I think it sort of picks itself, the Arsenal team, a bit more.
Yeah, I think Conte's left with the harder decisions to make there, to be completely honest. You mentioned him very briefly there, then Son, and it's kind of impossible to mention Son without mentioning Kane as well. And last time out, Kane scored twice and Son was on target as well in that 3-0 win. What do you think we can expect from the two of them this time out? They're obviously both off the mark now, as you mentioned, with Son's hat-trick. Can they continue that form?
Yeah, as I mentioned, you would imagine Son is restored back to the starting lineup here after being dropped. He also scored, I don't know if you saw the international results, he scored a great free kick for South Korea in the break as well. Kane, I think he's got 6 goals in 7 Premier League games this season. I mean, he scored for England. That was a penalty, but he scored again for England. You would imagine that these two start in likely to score or assist each other like that they have done in previous years. I think on the spreads we've got Harry Kane goal minutes quoted at 22-25, in Son goal minutes 15-18. So as I say, likely, you wouldn't be surprised if at least one of these two scores at the weekend.
Yeah, me neither. I'm looking forward to seeing how they can continue their form, especially as you mentioned that they both scored on the international break, so it should be all guns blazing from the off. Again, I briefly mentioned last time out, obviously Arsenal had a bit of a shocker, losing 3-0 and a very early red card for Rob Holding. Do you think the referee's going to have a bit of a game on his hands here again, or do you think it's kind of not going to be as tense as the last time out?
Yeah, I think bookings wise, then it's not hard to see it being a feisty affair. Probably stating the obvious in a North London derby, but whether that actually equates to yellow cards being shown is another matter. This game is averaging around 60 booking points over the last 6 seasons, and I think we've had around 4 or 5 red cards in those games. I think much depends on the referee, who's Anthony Taylor. And to be honest, I've always had him down as one of the more lenient referees, so I wouldn't necessarily be rushing to back the overbookings in this game with him in charge. I think that the bookings line is around over and under 5.5 yellow cards. So you need 6 yellow cards really to win there if you're going over. And if you look at Anthony Taylor this season, he's reffed 9 games and he's not given out more than 5 yellows in any of those. It's a North London derby, so anything can happen. But I wouldn't necessarily be looking to back the over cards in this game. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Especially, I agree with you with Taylor. I don't really have him down as a sort of card happy ref. So that's quite interesting that it's priced like that. But yeah, as we've mentioned a few times, it sounds like we're in for an exciting game, and I really hope that's the case. Just before we move on, then I did want to get your thoughts. I know we're only sort of 9-10 games in, but on how are you seeing it ending up between the North London teams? Do you think Arsenal can hang on, or do you think Spurs will eventually overtake?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much in it, to be honest. I think I'd probably just side with Arsenal with what I've seen so far this season. I just get the impression they're just going to be more consistent than Spurs, but no real strong view on this one. I think, there's not much in it, I don't think, to be honest. So,
yeah, I struggle to disagree with you again. Then there's not been a massive sample size, so maybe in a few games we can revisit. But it's really hard to see any real faults in Arsenal. Obviously, they had the poor result against United, but they didn't do too much wrong there. So it'll be an interesting one to watch anyway.
Yeah. One other thing to note in this Arsenal Tottenham game, we've got one fixed odds special on the game. So it's Jesus to score any time in Xhaka to be carded at 5-1. So might be some interest there for our viewers with, I guess, 2 likely outcomes. Jesus scoring in Xhaka to be carded as sort of quite obvious sort of selections there.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a great one to bring up. Okay, then right, let's move on and head up to Manchester. It's obviously Man City host United. It's been a bit of a mixed start. Well, it has been a mixed start for United, and City have looked pretty decent, bar a couple of draws. Who do you think wins this battle?
Yeah, I think, as you said, we're being spoiled this weekend with sort of 2 big derbies in the Premier League. Another huge game with 2 of the Premier League heavyweights. Really, I think despite the recent upturn in fortunes for Man United, this still looks like a monumental task to get anything at all from this game. I mean, they've got to stop Haaland, and if they can't stop him, then they've got to stop the likes of De Bruyne, Foden, Grealish, Mahrez. The list goes on. I mean, you do fear a bit for the Man United defence here. But I was reading some facts earlier that Lisandro Martinez managed to keep Haaland in check last year in the Champions League when he was playing for Ajax and Haaland was playing for Dortmund. So maybe not all is not lost for them yet.
Yeah, I mean, you highlighted it there. That's going to be a massive battle, I think, between those two, and one I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, I think the current price is for the game. I think Man City around 1-3 to win the game. I mean, despite them being the most likely winners, that's probably too short for me to be getting involved in. I think Man United, they've had some good results in this fixture over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. I don't think it's necessarily going to be one-way traffic, but yeah, I mean, they're obviously the most likely winners, Man City here.
Yeah, I think so. You're probably right, though. 1-3 is quite short, especially just given how big this fixture is and the rivalry there is. Yeah. I mean, we've already mentioned it, and it's absolutely impossible not to. Erling Haaland. Well, firstly, how was he not nominated for Player of the Month? I don't know what more he's got to do there to be nominated.
I think the Premier League has just decided that they need to spread it around a bit. So otherwise, he'll just win it every month. So yeah, he wasn't nominated. I think De Bruyne was nominated from Man City. So maybe they're just choosing one player from each club. In De Bruyne got it this month for Man City. But yeah, I think as we discussed in previous videos, you're aware of my views on Haaland. He's just phenomenal and will just keep scoring. You know, he's probably a completely different player to the likes of, you know, Ronaldo or Messi. And it will be interesting to see how his record matches up with them at the end. I think Ronaldo and Messi have gone a goal a game in their career, and they've scored something like 700 goals each between them. But it's interesting. Haaland's current record is a goal a game. He's played about 140 games and got about 130-ish goals. So he's well on his way to matching them. I mean, he takes penalties as well, Haaland, which is, you know, what you need really for a goal scorer. So, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that ends up eventually. I mean, he's only 22 as well, Haaland. So, I mean, he's got a long way ahead of him there.
Yeah, honestly, it's just such an exciting prospect. One of the stats that I love is the touches per goal, and I think it's around 6 or something ridiculous at the moment. But in second place, you've got Reading's Adam Le Fondre there, so I love bringing that one up. It's probably the only positive record that we have in the Premier League.
Yeah, if you want to get with Haaland in this game on Sunday, then we've got a few markets that might be worth looking at. I mean, the price of him just to score any time is very short. It's 3 to 5, which in more traditional prices is about 8 to 13. But you can back him at 12 to 5 to score a brace, so that's just under 5 to 2. Or if you're a bit more adventurous, you could go 9 to 1 for a hat-trick for Haaland. But another nice market we offer is a price on Haaland to score in each half, which is 6 to 1. So that there might be something of interest there, you know, for our viewers.
Yeah, no, they're all great, and I mean, as we've just discussed, once he gets started, it's not difficult to see him scoring 2 or 3. It's just as you mentioned before, whether Martinez and Varane can hold him out and how long they can do that for. Which is what I wanted to come on to next. Actually, is last time these two teams met, De Bruyne broke the deadlock in the 5th minute, I think, which is obviously a blistering start. I noticed the Sporting Index have got the time of first goal here predicted around the 30th minute. I guess it's kind of hard to predict, but what do you make of that? Do you think it could come before that, or do you think it will be a bit of a stalemate until sort of, the half an hour mark?
Yeah, I think that's maybe about right. I mean, we've got the game in for around 3.5 goals, so sort of the equivalent time of first goal would be around the 30-minute mark with that quote. But as you said, there's actually been early goals, I think, in the last 3 matches between these two. So, you know, potentially could see another early goal here. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, no, me neither. And I'm sure both teams are going to come out firing with the international break. They'll be ready to go. So, again, looks like another exciting one. Hopefully there is lots of goals from a punter's perspective. I think that pretty much covers us there now.
We've actually just got one special to mention on that Man City game, which might be of interest to our viewers. So it's a price on Haaland to score any time, Man City to win, and both teams to score, and that's 5 to 2. So really, for that bet, you're probably looking at a 2-1 or 3-1 or 4-1 Man City victory for it to cop. So yeah, might be some interest there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Great, thanks very much, Neville. That was brilliant. Just before we head off, then, I just want to remind everyone that the opinions that we've shared today are Neville and mine's, and not that of Sporting Index. And a quick reminder: if you are spread betting or enjoying our fixed odds offering, then please remember to do so responsibly. And all that's left for me to say is enjoy the weekend, enjoy the great sport that we've got on, and thank you again, Neville.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.